Hey, it's me, Egbert. EGGBURT. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
We are back for a B block, which is our last segment of the show.
C block.
Excuse me. Did I say B block? I meant C block.
You did. That's okay.
That is John Combest. I am Brad. This Eagle story down in Springfield area has gotten national attention. I mean, it's been on.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it picked up a bunch of places.
On these, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's this bald eagle that's at it's a national cemetery down there. Isn't one of the Civil War cemeteries in Springfield, isn't it, where they found the bald eagle?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it was. It's Wilson's Creek, I think it was.
Right. It's one of the there's cemetery down there from Civil War and commemorative area because there's big battles that were fought between the North and the South back in Civil War back in the 1860s. Anyway, supposedly people say the eagle can't fly, can't get off the ground, so they dispatch some conservation people out there, and they pick up the eagle, and they take him back, and they can't quite figure out what's going on with the eagle, and they X-ray the eagle, and they realize that the eagle has eaten too much raccoon, and he can't get off the ground. So I'm going like, okay.
And it's a sore spot for you because that one time the ambulance had to come when you were at Freddy's. Remember when you couldn't extract from the booth that time, Brad? You were quite embarrassed. And worst part about it is they were pulling you out. And the golf carts all came around from Cottleville, and they swarmed Freddy's, and they had their Nokia phones. The old people were trying to use their old Nokia phones to record you, and it's very triggering for you.
John paints a wonderful word picture with that. Okay, so what have we not talked about yet? You really want to talk about today what all these regulations go into effect? Is that a big deal today?
No. I was just poking fun at the fact that I have no idea why laws start on August 28th. And I looked up Missouri's fiscal year, and it's not concurrent with the fiscal year. I bet it's one of those things that one year, like 150 years ago, they said, let's say August 28th, like it was somebody's birthday, and they just did it as a ruse or as a rib. And then every year after that, they just keep doing it on August 28th.
So the ones we talked about were, what's the biggies we talked about today? There's a bunch of them, but what are the ones we talked about the other day?
Oh, we talked about, a whole bunch of education stuff goes into effect, and that's pretty boring. That's stuff that we've beaten into. Hey, here's an interesting one. Excuse me. Essentially now, thanks to Representative Jim Murphy, who represents South St. Louis County, it's essentially easier for you to raise backyard chickens and not having homeowners associations tell you no.
That's got to be a big story in a lot of areas because, no.
HOA ladies and men.
No, but seriously, the idea being that 20 years ago, if you would have said somebody like pick a area, Chesterfield or Frontenac or Ladue, and if you would have said, hey, what about, you think you'd want to have fresh eggs and have chickens in your backyard? Most people go, yeah, right. And there's a whole movement that's gotten to sort of back to basics, and we don't want to buy processed food. Yeah,
kind of that feel-good, natural food thing, yeah.
Right, and raising chickens, and I know that's been a really sticking point in a lot of areas. So that's one of
Let me tell you, and this piece is brought to us by the Springfield Newsletter. The latest article is up today from the Newsletter. A reporter named Marta Mize, not to be confused with Baseball Hall of Famer Johnny Mize. But it says the right to raise chickens. Through a larger bill focused on real property, Parson greenlit a restriction that keeps homeowners associations from prohibiting residents from raising backyard chickens. Now here's the limit, Brad. Under the law, property owners, even property owners that have an HOA, can own up to 6 chickens on properties at least 0.2 of an acre in size. But hey, here's the catch. Homeowners associations can still regulate the ownership of roosters. Yeah, they come to snuff the rooster.
So what does that mean? You have to rent a rooster to have your chickens lay eggs? Is that what you can't have? You can't have.
I think that's the cat. You know what? I bet this was sponsored by the Rooster Industry.
Well, you can't have a rooster.
I bet they're. Yeah.
You can't
No
have
roosters, Brad. Get that rooster out of there.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think a rooster is a important aspect of chickens laying eggs. Am I wrong on that, or is it?
I think so. I think society says that roosters aren't very important, but that's the gynocentric order that we have today. Brad. They downplay the role of roosters.
This is just like, if you remember this, and what was it, like 15 years ago? I think it was Clarkson Valley. If you know where Clarkson Valley is, it's a very small little area, essentially sandwiched between. I believe it's between Chesterfield and Ellisville. Isn't that where Clarkson Valley lies? Essentially, it's
they have their own police department that likes to pull people over. They're kind of like the Calverton Park of West County.
Well, they don't have their own police department. At least they changed. They used to have county. They used to contract with county.
No, they do. Clarkson Valley has their own police.
They have their own police department. Okay. There was a big controversy about one of the guys in subdivision there who decided he was going to go green, and he put solar plant panels on his roof. Remember this story?
Oh, I do remember this. Yeah.
Oh my God! And you would have think he put out a neon sign in his front yard that was 10 feet tall. The residents went ape over this. Oh my God! He's got solar panels. It's against the HOA. Now, what's interesting is, let's go revisit that today, when those same HOA people will probably be going like, oh my God, he's putting up solar panels. He's saving the earth. He's
reducing his carbon footprint. Let's put that in our neighborhood newsletter.
Right. He's a model citizen in our subdivision because he's putting up solar panels, and he's going to get rid of X amount of tons of carbon. I'm going like, okay, whatever. You know what I mean?
And they actually, did you hear that in Clarkson Valley, they did work out a deal. If you have the solar panels, they'll redirect it to Arkansas, and then they'll redirect it to Ameren out in O'Fallon, and then they'll redirect it to people's house for only $99 a month. You can help a family in Clarkson Valley capture their solar power, Brad. Suzanne Summers told me that. I saw it late night on TV.
There's a channel on YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTubes. There's a channel on YouTube. I don't know if it's fake or not. I mean, it looks for real, where it's this subdivision and it's people posting doorbell camera videos of the HOA coming to visit them.
Oh, it's got to be so good. I haven't seen a lot of them, but I've seen a couple of them, Brad.
And some of them are like, for example, and once again, I don't know if this is true or this is bogus. One lady gets a knock on the door, and this is all on Ring doorbell camera, so you don't actually see the homeowner. You hear the homeowner, but you see the HOA person. And in this one, the HOA person is citing them because they've exceeded their daily limit of Amazon packages. That apparently in the HOA rules, you can only get 4 Amazon packages a day, and the HOA person. And what's sad about it is, talking about needing to get a life, the HOA person has a listing of the number of packages that were on these people's front porch for the past 2 weeks. Well, 2 weeks ago you had 8 packages, and on the 14th you had 7 packages. I'm going like, get a life.
Yeah. But think of how well, like, these Karens or Kens or whatever you want to call them. Think of, like, at the literal end of their day, they're like, we did it. We told Betsy that she needs to get those packages off her porch. If she wants to keep ordering diapers for her grandkids, she better bring them in right away.
See, what's interesting to me, this is to me a flaw in human nature, okay? The flaw in human nature is, and we're seeing it all over again right now on so many levels with the elections coming up. The flaw in human nature is that we want to be free. Most of us just want to live our lives. But there are certain percentages within our midst, in our population, that want to run everybody else's life, okay? And they tend to be politicians. They tend to be the fact that, like, if they don't want abortions, you shouldn't have an abortion because they don't want abortions. If they don't want you to have chickens in your backyard, they don't want chickens in their backyard, so you don't have chickens in your backyard. Get what I'm saying? And I
do. I mean, I wouldn't equate human life and protecting human life to chickens, but I get your point about nanny state government.
Well, and the crazy part of this is why I proudly declare myself a libertarian, okay? And once again, I get this all the time. If I say to somebody, "Oh, are you a Democrat or Republican?" Well, I'm really a libertarian. And they go, "Well, you for anarchy?" That's what I get all the time. I go, no. An anarchist is someone who says no government. Just, sort of like, what's that movie? There's that movie, what's called The Purge. You ever heard, what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. On Halloween, you're allowed to kill people at will.
Well, on that day, there's no law. Essentially, the police just take a vacation. You can do whatever you want. If you want to go steal your neighbor's car, you can do that. You want to go, murder your neighbor, you can do that. It's the purge. You can do that in a day. Okay. I'm a libertarian, meaning that, you know what? It's important that the government says when you're driving down a two-way street, you drive on the right side, and don't be driving on the left side because people's driving on the right side, and you know what I mean? Things like that, okay? And you know what? You shouldn't set fire to your next door neighbor's house. That's against the rules. You know what I mean? I agree with that. But yet, when you get to the point where you get into some of these HOAs where you can't paint your house green because the house next to you is green and the house behind you is green, you can only paint your house these colors, and you can only, and we'll give you the exact Pantone number of the color that you can paint your house, and this is the only 3 colors you can paint your house. It's my damn, and you know what, I had this argument with somebody recently, and you know what their response was? Well, that prevents people from painting their house pink. And my response was, what's wrong with a pink house? Right? I mean, I don't care. If my next door neighbor paints his house fluorescent green, I don't care because
I get it. But hold on, Brad. I think I agree with you that there's a limit. There's a limit to libertarianism, at least in my mind. But I think a homeowners association has the right to tell you, look, don't leave your trash cans out where everybody can see them because you're not a Hoosier. Like, we don't want it to look like we're a bunch of Hoosiers here. You can't have a car on blocks in the front lawn. If you choose to purchase a house here, you will not put your car on blocks. You will not walk around in a tank top fixing the carburetor in broad daylight. You will not allow your trash cans to be in the driveway 3 days after pickup. Like, I think reasonable people can see that. I think there's a difference between that and Pantones and monitoring the type of, paint or shutters that you have on your house.
But the problem is, where do you draw that line? And by the way,
but that's the question. I agree with you, Brad. There has to be to draw a line somewhere. But I don't want. Do you want to live? And you're going to say yes because you're a natural contrarian and you oppose everything that somebody reasonable says. But do you want a Hoosier putting a car on blocks in the house next to you?
Well, see, here's the difference. And I'm going to answer this with I'm not going to be contrarian. I'm going to walk over to my next door neighbor and go, dude, what's wrong with your car? I can help you. I got tools. Let's get it fixed.
No, you won't. You're going to call 911 and report that there's a car there, Brad. Because if you hadn't called 911 in 72 hours, you get an alert on your phone. It's kind of like how it tells you to take your blood thinners, how you have that alert on there. It says, Brad, don't go to the hospital again. Take your blood thinners. You're going to get an alert that says, Brad, you haven't called 911 and harassed them. Oh, I saw a piece of litter in the street. I think we need to send an officer out. You would call. And then you know what your neighbor would say. I don't know why Brad leaves his grass at 5 inches in the summer. He talks about how it's healthier for the grass. And then I'd read about it on Nextdoor and be like, God, I'm glad I don't live in Sauget.
John. By the way, I got a lot of comments about you making fun of me about you saying me calling in 911 call on the car that was stalled in the really dangerous area there in Highway 94 down from Montel Winery. And anybody who knows that area, matter of fact, one of the people who contacted me say, you're exactly right. That could have turned into a fatal car accident. So, but John's going like, well, why did you call 911, Brad? Somebody would come.
I agree. I actually thought in the story, Brad, I have to admit I wasn't paying attention because I was on snarfitup.com and that those 33 joint ventures you did with the Hoffmans that'll never come to fruition. And I was not paying attention and I thought the car was on the shoulder, not in the road. You'll remember in retrospect if a car is stuck in the road. And you know what? I'm going to get stuck in the road if I don't get my kid to school. So we got to run.
And by the way, there's a dead skunk in the middle of the road and stinking to high heaven. Okay, say goodbye, John.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest. John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?